nearly a decade of professional sales and account management experience, with his career starting at 3M and now currently serving as SVP of Sales for SunnySide Digital. SunnySide is a leading wholesaler for hardware and infrastructure for the digital mining and data center industries, providing a truly A to Z solution for those looking to build out a digital mining or data center facility. He's also the host of the podcast, the Hashrate Happy Hour, Hashrate Happy Hour Podcast, where he has candid conversations with Bitcoin mining and energy industry experts on how Bitcoin mining and the electrical industry can work better together. He's had on guests ranging from publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies to local utility companies. We've got at least one rep here from Otter Tail Power in the north central part of the west central part of the state. And they share their insights into the world of power and Bitcoin mining. Ben brings a uniquely corporate lens to the digital mining industry, and he is excited to be part of an ecosystem that is starting to mature and become more embedded within the energy production industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ben Walsh.
Hey everybody. Want to make sure that we're giving a big round of applause and a special thanks to Brandon and the Minnesota Blockchain team. This type of an event takes a lot of coordination, effort, energy, time, all of that. So let's make sure we're giving Brandon and the team a big round of applause to start this off. So, like Brandon said, I'm going to get up here and talk to you guys about Bitcoin mining and the economic incentives behind Bitcoin mining, but then also how that is starting to really overlay and embed itself in the electrical industry, the energy production industry as well. I like to start with my own personal story and how I actually got into the Bitcoin mining space. This was back in like 2019, 2020. My wife and I moved into our house that we're in right now, and it had this dinky little 100 amp panel. And it turned into this game of like, I'd be in the kitchen, I have to yell into the living room, you know, hey, honey, are you gonna be watching TV? Because I'm gonna use the microwave. Otherwise we'd blow a fuse. So it just, we knew we had an electrical panel upgrade that we had to do, and anyone who's had to do that knows it's like $3,000, $4,000 to upgrade your panel. With that upgrade, we were gonna have way more electrical capacity than we were actually gonna use in our house. So it's like, okay, we gotta pay all this money, we're gonna have too much, but we can't go on yelling at each other on who's gonna use what. So I had this light bulb moment because I was starting to get more and more into Bitcoin mining of, well, wait a minute, I will plug in some Bitcoin miners, take up that extra electrical capacity. That's gonna help us pay for this electrical panel upgrade. And so that's exactly what we did. We upgraded the panel, we paid the $3,500. I plugged in a couple of Bitcoin miners to that, and over the course of a year, we were able to pay off the electrical panel and earn some Bitcoin at the same time. So I like to share that story because it really sheds some light on the economic incentives that are driving Bitcoin mining, and we're starting to see that in more of a bigger way with large companies and utility companies that are starting to get very seriously interested in this. So let's talk about the economic incentives behind Bitcoin mining. So I will preface that this is a relatively quick talk. I could probably spend a whole nother hour on just this slide and then a whole nother hour on the next slide that I'll show you guys. So I'm probably gonna drum up more questions than I am answering, so please find me afterwards. I'm happy to talk about this all night long. Bitcoin mining is essential for Bitcoin and the blockchain because it is verifying and securing the network. So if I were to send Brandon $10 worth of Bitcoin, that then gets put into a block, sent to the Bitcoin miners. They are then doing, it's essentially guesswork. It's very, very, very fast, high intensive compute guesswork to guess the encryption, and the first miner that gets that right is rewarded with Bitcoin. So right now the block reward, which is what that's called, is 6.25 Bitcoin for the miner or the group that guesses the sequence in the encryption correctly first. So it's a massively lucrative incentive program and mechanism built into the Bitcoin blockchain network. Similar to the like normal traditional commodity space, Bitcoin miners, the one thing they can control is their expenses. The asset itself is very volatile. The price is up and down. Right now it's somewhere around $26,000, $27,000. A year and a half ago it was almost $70,000. It's very volatile. So the one thing they can control is their expense side of things. So it's very similar to gold, copper, all sorts of regular commodity mining. So what this leads to is this never-ending hunt for inexpensive power. So with that, we're going to get into the economics of a utility company. I'm sure this is not a surprise to anyone in the room, but a utility company is incentivized to sell as much electricity as they possibly can. Another thing that is a mandate for them is that they have to balance the grid, meaning they can't have too much generation and they can't have too little demand for the power. So it's this never-ending balancing act of making sure that they have their grid balanced while selling as much as they possibly can. Their favorite customer is a large load customer that can drop the load at a moment's notice. So part of that balancing act and part of that is they have a couple of different ways to achieve this balance, and one is a demand response program, or they have, well, there's lots of ways, but the two main ways is demand response, or they have different generation assets that can spin up and produce electricity at a pretty fast pace. So think of today. Today was pretty hot. I'm sure most people had their AC running. Probably more people were running their AC than they were last week. So the power company needs to have that electricity on call or through a demand response program where the customer can drop the electrical load to supply it to the grid. So in being a part of, and I promise I'll tie all this together. So being a part of their demand response program, the utility companies are incentivizing that type of customer with cheaper power rates. So I'm hoping that's kind of the light bulb moment on how these two are going to tie together. So how does this all fit together? So you have a utility company that is incentivizing a demand response customer so that they can access that electricity when they need it. And in doing so, they're offering cheaper power rates. And then you have this other industry that has this incentive mechanism that's driving these groups and companies to seek the cheapest cost of power possible. It's a perfect marriage. You have both of these industries starting to figure this out in really big ways. And there's some really cool and powerful things starting to come to light. I have a couple of local examples. One, the first example here is actually just 45 minutes away. Glencoe, Minnesota, they have a 15 megawatt Bitcoin mining customer on their power grid. And this was a hugely powerful and very impactful, it's a small town. I don't know, has anyone been to Glencoe, Minnesota? Couple? Small town. With this customer, they doubled their electrical capacity. That's impactful. They materially increased their sales tax base. That's more money for schools, parks, filling potholes after our winters, things like that. So this was a material increase for them, and the relationship has been nothing but fruitful and good. The second example, Ottertail Power. So we actually do have, Kevin is here tonight with Ottertail Power. They arguably have the largest Bitcoin mining facility in the Midwest on their power grid. And this, for all the same reasons that this was impactful to Glencoe, this also ushered in hundreds of thousands of dollars in positive economic impact to the local town for labor, material, all sorts of positive economic impact that was happening there. So a couple of local examples. So all of that being said, the conclusion here is Bitcoin mining and the transition into having this be embedded in the electrical and the utility industry is really exciting. There's a lot of economic incentive all around it. There's a perfect marriage between the two industries. They're starting to figure that out in a big way. And like Brandon mentioned, I did start a podcast about this. I literally can't talk about this type of stuff enough. I love power and Bitcoin mining, and they're coming together in really cool ways. So thank you, everybody. Like I said, I'll be around all night. I probably drummed up more questions than I answered, but thank you.